Hello, my friends. It's William with the final part of the long diary entry of 22nd September 1907 in the Crimea. It's a Saturday. And what happened yesterday? Well, our friends went to Yalta. And it turned out to be a nice occasion because they weren't whisked off to Yalta by Aunt Minnie, thereby causing trouble, or so Dmitri feared, with General Laming, GM. Instead, they went with GM. And I guess they had a nice time. Doesn't sound like it was anything special. They had tea at the Hotel Rosia, and then they went and looked in the little shops. Okay, so how did they spend the rest of the day when they got back from Yalta? Well, Dmitri is going to tell us in some detail, so here we go. Today, after the letter Maria received from Tyotia, we decided to leave on Saturday the 29th. You could say that I am very glad, though of course also a little sad about leaving. But now with the new guests, the little aunts and uncles, when they arrived in the Crimea, our peaceful life changed entirely and got worse. So that's why I'm glad to go to Moscow. And wearing my uniform will make it 100, 1,000 times better. When we got back from Yalta, I sat at home, and right up until dinner time, i.e. from 7:30 to 8, I wrote letters. I finished 3, an unprecedented case. Tomorrow we plan to go to the church in Oreanda, and then we're invited to lunch and to spend the whole day at Aunt Minnie's. That's excellent because I'm certain there won't be any picnics. I'm now entirely used to my uniform. It's like I've always worn it, but still, how quickly time flies by. It's now been a little more than 2 weeks that I've been wearing it. 10:15. Okay, he's been staying up a little later these days. So, the big news is that he failed to mention in the first part of the diary entry is that Maria has gotten a letter from Tyotia, from Aunt Ella. And apparently Aunt Ella wants the kids back in Moscow, but she's leaving it up to them to decide the precise date. So that's a little unlike her, but that's nice. And they have decided, apparently after all conferring with each other, they've decided to leave on the 29th, so 1 week, a Saturday, so 1 week from the day that Dmitri was writing this diary entry. And, you know, he seems to have had such a nice time in the Crimea. I'm a little surprised that he's so anxious to get back to Moscow, but then, you know, he's been under this kind of self-imposed pressure of worrying about everybody's mood and about this sort of tension between Aunt Minnie, who wants to spend as much time as possible with the kids, and Laming, who wants to follow Aunt Ella's instructions to the letter, meaning not to let the kids go visit the various relatives except on certain special occasions. So Dmitri has become picnic phobic, as you know. His worst nightmare in the Crimea is to have Aunt Minnie want to take him and Maria on a picnic, because he always thinks that's going to cause a blow-up with GM. So anyway, he's relieved that tomorrow, at least, they will be spending the day at Harax, at Aunt Minnie and Uncle George's country estate, and apparently that's all right. That doesn't upset Laming, and it's good because he knows as long as that's the plan, to spend the whole day at Harax, it will mean no picnics. Thank heavens. I tried to look up today, actually, to see if there was a word for picnic phobia, and there is not. Okay, so this is an interesting statement about the little aunts and uncles. So he actually does call them Tyotinki and dяденьки, so really little, like a child's pet name, the little aunts and uncles. And that seems primarily to be, yes, Aunt Minnie and Uncle George on the one hand, and Uncle Sandro and Aunt Ksenia on the other hand. And there was, at least for a while, there were Uncle Nicolasha and his brother Pyotr as well, but I'm not sure that that is who Dmitri is referring to, whom he's referring to, because he doesn't spend much time with them. But once they were there, established there on their country estates, these little aunts and uncles, they disrupted Dmitri and Maria's nice, peaceful life. And things got worse, and Dmitri was in a state of perpetual anxiety. So I think, as I mentioned yesterday, it's too bad that they didn't seem to realize this. You know, they could have spared him some anxiety, maybe, if they'd realized how he felt about the situation. But you know, that was really quite consistent for him, with him, anything for a peaceful life. And in that sense, he was a little bit like his father. Paul, Grand Duke Paul, kind of took it to the extreme. He was a man of routine, of unvarying routine, and yeah, he was very much a homebody and somebody who wanted to do things the exact same way every day, and the emphasis was on leading a peaceful life. And Dmitri didn't quite take it to that extreme, but he had a little bit of his father in him in that respect. So he's really been looking forward to turning up in Moscow in his uniform. So as you recall, when he turned 16, the Tsar not only gave him permission, but stipulated that he would from now on be wearing uniforms, both at home and outside of the home. And he, you know, was a little uncomfortable at first, but he was still thrilled, and now he's gotten used to it, and he just can't wait for the people in Moscow to see him in his uniform. Okay, so the next day they're going to go to Oryanda, which, yeah, turns out that this was the village or the town with the palace that had burned down and left to sort of just be dilapidated and derelict, and made Dmitri feel melancholy. And he particularly liked the church in Oryanda, the one with the mosaics, I think. That's the one he's describing. So that will be nice. And he doesn't, you know, he's not feeling anxious about tomorrow, because no picnics and a visit to this nice church. So next time we're going to start talking about the last few days in Crimea and how they're preparing to leave. And they're going to take another big excursion tomorrow, but with the lambings. So, or no, not tomorrow, the next day. So that's not a concern. But yeah, it's all, these last few days in the Crimea will be very interesting, I assure you. And then we'll start October in Moscow. So I hope to see you next time. Bye.